This episode is for Friday, February 20th, 2015. Welcome, Meteor fans. I'm your host, Josh Owens, along with my special guest host, Rishi. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
We wanted to have, am I saying that right, by the way, Rishi?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, awesome. Got one right. I decided to invite Rishi on the show this week because wanted to talk about This Week in Meteor. Found that very interesting when you posted that last Friday. I'd already made the show notes, so didn't really talk a whole lot about it, but really wanted to get into it this week. A lot of good stuff in there. So, I guess tell people, what This Week in Meteor is.
So This Week in Meteor was started because of an internal thing we started at Differential. So for Thursday meetings, I decided to do some research and give some insight on what's going on in the Meteor universe. And so I got a lot of good feedback internally, and that turned into a public thing. And now it's This Week in Meteor for everyone.
Nice. Yeah, and that's awesome. And you guys, you actually slapped together a quick Polymer website and just signs people up to MailChimp, right?
It actually isn't Polymer. It's materialized CSS.
Oh, nice.
It's very
okay.
nice.
Yeah, it looked like Polymer. Interesting. All right. Yeah, so this week we're going to talk a little bit about some of the topics from This Week in Meteor. And then we're going to talk about, let me look at my list. We're going to talk about Mongol, and then we're going to talk about React in Blaze. So get some opinions on some of that stuff. Yeah, so I've got This Week in Meteor 2, version 2 pulled up. Let me click on the first issue too. I just thought we'd kind of scan and look at some of the interesting things. So the interesting one to me, I actually heard about this from someone else before you posted it, was the oplog backlog. Did you look at that a whole lot?
I looked at it a little bit, but I don't have too much information about it. I have a general understanding of why it was implemented.
Yeah. So basically, oplog is kind of a double-edged sword in that it can help you easily scale to multiple processes, however you want to say that. But it allows you to run multiple Meteor apps, and rather than running the pull-in diff, which takes a lot of computing power, looking for changes, you can subscribe. You can basically act like a Mongo replica and tell it you need the oplog, and it's a special collection that it streams changes out of, and so your Meteor app can listen to that and get that automatically, right? And so that's great because we don't have to do the pull-in diff, and so it can really reduce CPU, and we can start scaling out to a lot more boxes, and they're all going to get their updates nice and zippy. But the problem comes in when you're shoving a lot of data down through your Mongo. Like, let's say you're doing thousands of writes a second or something. If you think about something like Kadira, hey, Airnoda, he is dealing with thousands and thousands of performance analytics coming in every few seconds, right? And the issue there is each Meteor app is going to have to process all that huge backlog of data, and there's no way to say, I only care about this portion of data being updated from oplog, because it's really just there to make sure replication happens smoothly between multiple Mongo servers. So what the oplog backlog allows you to do is you can specify how far behind the backlog can get before it's going to just flush the backlog, and I think when it flushes the backlog, it'll forcibly run a pull query maybe. Yeah, so there's a too far behind environment variable you can set. Yeah. Interesting stuff. They're trying to figure things out. So, all right. What did you find interesting in your?
One thing I found interesting was the MongoDB upgrade, because with the driver that they upgraded it to, you might be able to actually use Mongo 3.0, which has a lot of performance improvements from 2, especially with the new storage engine that they're using, Wired Tiger.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. What they did is they updated the Node Mongo driver to a version that supported 2.6, but they were able to go. They just grabbed a version that also supports 3.0 as well. So I agree. This is going to be huge because no one's really tested 3.0 yet that I've seen, but my guess is with the Wired Tiger, the Mongo team is touting it as spectacular. So my guess is we're going to see good things. Awesome. We've talked about some of these before, like the each-in helper and the template level description or subscriptions and that kind of thing. Yeah, and we definitely talked about some of these other Meteor community type topics. So the other thing that I saw that was interesting was I didn't read the Blaze 2 proposal, but it's on my to-read list now. You said it was quite huge.
Yeah, I definitely recommend reading it. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there and loads of discussion from different community members.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to read that. But and then also the stream-based build tool that Slava's kind of, working on looks like a hack pad for. That looked interesting to me, but again, I haven't read that one. And then probably the more interesting one is you said you put this under the updates in the Meteor community, but using React components in Blaze. The really interesting thing to me is that this is a package from Avatal, and if you go look, like there's actually a project that they have it installed in. It's called like Squares or something like that, and it looks like they're experimenting with this idea of using React components inside of Blaze.
Oh yeah, I see it. Rectangles, the repository.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's exciting to me that they're playing around with that, and they're putting out packages, right? So Sashko put out a package the other day that had a little functionality in it, and now like Avatal is putting out a package. So it's interesting to see them kind of playing around with the framework in a different way. Like it's not part of core.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to help improve the project itself. So you get a good comparison of how other projects are doing it, or even allow people to just use React in their in Meteor projects as well.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no like in Blaze land, I guess, in Meteor land, we have packages, and you could theoretically build a web component that way, but it might be. Oh, here comes a train. It might be really interesting to be able to tap into like a true React web component and use that, because all of a sudden you open yourself up to a huge library of available content that you can piggyback off of, which is always a win,
Mm-hmm.
All right. Was there anything else interesting in issue 2 you wanted to highlight or talk about?
I guess the one of the things I really found interesting was the multi-core support in the Meteor cluster package that Arnoda and the Meteor Hacks team are working on. So like there's all these strides in scalability coming out, and I think that's really big.
Yeah, so I mean, it was interesting to me. I like that. Like he actually posted it. It's just a screenshot on Crater, and there's some decent discussion going on in there. But one guy said it was like a pointless screenshot, and I said I wouldn't call it pointless, but we need more information. And so he said, he's got 4 cores on. It's a DigitalOcean 8 GB machine. He just used one machine, and he had 4 cluster workers, and he had 4 passenger processes, and basically, this graph looks almost identical between the two. So, I mean, that's awesome. But I mean, it seems like what are we gaining here over using passenger? Because Nginx kind of does a lot of this stuff for us. So, I would love to hear his thoughts on what we're gaining by using cluster instead of passenger.
You should get him on the next podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
Talk about that.
Maybe. I'll invite him to blog about it first. Yeah, so it's all good stuff. So I would highly recommend you subscribe to This Week in Meteor. It's thisweekinmeteor.com, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely worth paying attention to. For me, like I see a lot of the community stuff anyway in Crater, but like all the combing through the commits is hugely valuable, and understanding what the Meteor team's working on I think is awesome. Like they might be hating life right now because you're doing this, but at the same time, like exposing a lot of these conversations to the outside world I think is a very valuable thing to have happen. So
yeah, it's helping me get a better understanding of the direction that Meteor is taking. Yeah,
and they definitely don't, like, they talk about it, but it's not like publicly exposed anywhere very well. So it's quite interesting. All right, real quick, if you have any questions for us, we'll maybe take a question or two at the end. You can use the Q&A app. I absolutely have no idea how that works, so I think you can leave a comment on the page. I don't know. If that doesn't do it, then I'll pay attention to the comments as well on the Google Plus page. Also, the sponsors this week are Modulus.io and Compose.io. If you listen to the podcast version of this, you would have heard that in the bumpers. But if you're interested with Modulus, you can use the coupon code METPODCAST and get a $25 credit. We don't have one of those for Compose. I should ask them for one. But they're awesome for doing hosting and all that kind of like production stuff. So I definitely check them out. And then the next story is Mongol. Did you take a look at this at all?
I saw it, but I haven't had a chance to play around with it just yet.
Yeah, I haven't installed it in an app yet either. I'm kind of excited though to put this into one of the apps I'm working on. But basically, it's just like this little. I was literally talking to someone in the Meteor Club Slack chat about like having a tool that would help you maybe be a little more security conscious, and this basically exposes your mini Mongo collection, like whatever's in your mini Mongo memory. It exposes it in this nice little package that sits in the corner of your application, and so you can click on it and bring it up, and like the demo version, it shows you that you've got a account lists and to-dos in there, and so you can click on that and kind of browse through the data that's actually there, and you can actually even do changes from the console. So really interesting stuff. You can remove stuff, duplicate records, like all kinds of Mongo-ish things. But for me, like having this there shows you like what data you're exposing through publications and through find calls and all that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to really help speed up the development process by actually using the package and testing your data quickly.
Yeah, and the other awesome part is it uses the debug only flag and keeps it out of production for you. So it only shows up in your development environment. And then they've got like hotkey activation and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. And then you know what I would love to see is like, did you see Sasha's post about like template outlining?
Oh yes, yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, so I'd love to see that integrated here, and you could hit a hotkey and just like turn on the template level outlining, which basically shows you, it like puts a border around every template, and then when you hover over it, it tells you what template is rendering that data, which is pretty friggin' awesome. And then he's even got like, it flashes and shows you a count to show you like when a template's re-rendering, so you can kind of tell if you're re-rendering a template too often or something. So I could see that being a real handy addition in Mongol as well.
That could even be a separate package in its own.
Could be, yeah, maybe just hotkey. But seems like they've done a lot of heavy lifting here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so definitely check that out. If you want to see it, it's just at mongol.meteor.com. Pretty awesome. And then the last one, I guess we technically talked about, which is the React and Blaze. Again, it's super interesting to me to watch the Meteor team building packages instead of building things in the core. So, I guess that was kind of a lame update since I'd already mentioned it during the earlier segment. All right, so now is time for viewer questions. Ben said, "Yo, it works, bro," and that was all we got. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. So, have you been working on anything interesting or exciting other than This Week in Meteor?
Recently, not too much. Only because I've been bogged down with school, and then This Week in Meteor, it took some time this week. It was a very long one. Yeah, nothing too interesting right now.
Nice. Yeah. So, what are you going to school for?
I go to school for basically computer science.
Nice. But you're getting all your education from the Meteor community anyway.
Exactly.
That's funny. Yeah, that's awesome. So for me this week, I was working on 8 days of Meteor.com, trying to get that wrapped up. It's like 8 days of lessons delivered to your inbox that step you through how to build an app from nothing using Meteor. And the great part is, like, I've tried to turn it into a guided journey where people are learning. I highlight code and like open source code they can look at that kind of accomplishes the same thing that they've done, so they can learn to read other people's code. And then I also point out like where they should be reading in the docs to kind of learn more about this particular piece that we're working on. And then I give them like 2 or 3 goals for actually building this functionality for this app. And at the end of the 8 days, they should be able to have a functional kind of UX functional application for inviting people to parties. So it's been fun, but it's been my focus for yesterday and today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Still no questions, so I guess we'll wrap it up. So thanks for coming on, Rishi, and I look forward to me. Yeah, I look forward to more This Week in Meteor stuff. So keep it up. Don't drop the ball. Don't pull an Aranota.
I don't plan to.
Yeah, he was doing this for a while, but I think his plate's pretty full. So it's awesome to see someone else kind of taking up the mantle, and seems like you're digging even deeper than Aranota was. So super awesome. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Tune in next week to the live show. We do it every Friday at 3:30. Or you can check out meteorpodcast.com. You can subscribe there. Or you can search for Meteor Podcast in iTunes. And I actually started just today. We did a little apprentice session where we're working on new Meteor Podcast website too. So building that in Meteor, and hopefully we can get everything transitioned off of Podbean without any interruption. So that'll be probably in the next 2 weeks as well. So, all right, thanks guys.